On this Tuesday edition of Locked On Grizzlies, I wonder out loud if the best days of Ja Morant are behind the Memphis Grizzlies. Plus, I feel sorry for myself and Memphis Grizzlies fans everywhere in the wake of an NBA draft lottery that could have gone worse, but certainly could have gone better for the Grizzlies. Let's lock in.
You are Locked On Grizzlies, your daily Memphis Grizzlies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Tuesday. This is your host, Joe Mullinax, on this episode of Locked On Grizzlies. No DeMichael Cole this time around after a long weekend for your boys here on Locked On Grizzlies. Enjoying Mother's Day with my wife, with DeMichael's mother, of course, and DeMichael taking an extended little breather from the pod. He will be back, I promise. Happy to be with you on this edition of the show, flying solo. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts as proud members of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team each and every single day. Like, comment, rate, review, subscribe on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, Google, literally anywhere you get a podcast. Make sure DeMichael and I are a part of your NBA and Memphis Grizzlies content consumption each and every time that an episode drops. We'll talk a lot throughout the week about a variety of topics. We'll start our player review series. For me, it's going to center around the question of Ja Morant and have we seen his best already? Is there more juice to squeeze from the proverbial fruit when it comes to Ja and his game? We'll talk more about that throughout the show. But I wanted to lead off with the absolute ridiculousness that was the NBA draft lottery on Monday night. Now, I want to preface all of this with saying that I am not a conspiracy theorist. As much as I loathe Adam Silver, and if you're an everydayer of Locked On Grizzlies, you know that I cannot stand the worst commissioner in the history, not the history, that's a little strong. The worst commissioner in professional sports today, in my opinion, is Adam Silver. It's hard to say that the league is rigged when you understand how probability works, right? Probability is the possibility of something occurring. Just because that percentage is low does not mean that it is not possible. It does not mean it is not likely. It's not something that can't happen. However, the improbability of the Dallas Mavericks securing the number one overall pick, something that had a 1.8% chance of happening going into the festivities on Monday night, for the Mavericks to jump up 10 spots in the lottery and secure that number one overall pick to use as they see fit. Obviously, Cooper Flagg could be the prize, a pretty slam dunk number one prospect in this draft. But it also could be used in a trade for the Dallas Mavericks. They could go into some big game hunting, a Giannis Antetokounmpo. We'll talk more about Giannis later on this week. Kevin Durant could be had. We've talked about that recently here on Locked On Grizzlies. So now the Dallas Mavericks could go and get a third man, or they could draft Cooper Flagg and hit the reset button with a new, young cornerstone piece in the wake of the Luka Doncic trade. The way that it all went down, if I was a conspiracy theorist, I would say that Adam Silver had the fix in from the jump, because it's very convenient for Nico Harrison, the general manager of the Dallas Mavericks, to make that move, sending Luka to Los Angeles. The question marks, the frustration, so many fans not renewing season tickets, so many people angry to the point that they were willing to renounce their fandom of the Dallas Mavericks. And now look at this. All of a sudden, like manna from heaven, here comes Cooper Flagg to the Dallas Mavericks, potentially, or at the very least, a very attractive trade asset. The Mavericks could reset. The Mavericks could use that pick to acquire another star, like we mentioned a moment ago. Or if you want to subscribe to the Matt Moore at HP Basketball on X model, that you have two max contracts in this era of the CBA, and you build around those two guys, there's arguments to be made for acquiring a few different pieces around Kyrie and AD using that first round pick. But to have this luxury fall to you, it's hard to say, let's bring in a couple of starters and a role player in exchange for the chance to have a potential franchise player in Cooper Flag. That's difficult to say out loud. So I would imagine Dallas will dream a little bit bigger, whether it's keeping Flag or making a bigger all-star move, all-NBA move. How does all this pertain to the Memphis Grizzlies? Well, it's not great for Memphis, obviously, regardless of how Dallas moves forward with the number 1 overall pick. The Southwestern Division, the Western Conference, just got tougher. Flag is an extremely talented wing, 6'9", capable of doing a lot of different things. He's not Luka Doncic, but he has Luka adjacent talents as a creator off the dribble, both for himself and for others, given his size. He has a lot of potential, this Cooper Flag, and obviously he makes a lot of sense for a team in the Mavericks, whether they're trying to go the rebuild route, which it doesn't seem they are, or if they want to bring in a young talent that should help them compete and compete immediately. There are not many weaknesses in Cooper Flag's game. If you go to my favorite website this time of year, tankathon.com, their stat strengths and stat weaknesses, there are no weaknesses, according to Tankathon, in Cooper Flag's game. He's a creator. He's a rebounder. He's a plus defender. He can do pretty much anything you need him to do on the basketball court. And again, he's a forward, combo forward, can play on the perimeter. So you got your big and AD. You got Kyrie at the point when he returns from injury. You got Cooper Flag. That's concerning. Then you look at who got the number 2 pick in the draft, the numero dos selection. Said as such because it is the San Antonio Spurs. Now, the Spurs move up 6 spots. They were right there in the running with Dallas for that number 1 pick there at the end. It was very suspenseful. Can you imagine Cooper Flag and Victor Wembanyama and Stephon Castle next to each other? But Cooper Flag is either going to Dallas or somewhere else unless the Spurs try to trade up a pick. Instead of it being Cooper Flag, more than likely, it could be a Dylan Harper or Ace Bailey, one of the 2 Rutgers players. Could be somebody like a VJ Edgecombe from Baylor. Or the Spurs now could use this number 2 overall pick plus other assets and young talent that they have in their possession to go get a Kevin Durant, to go get, more specifically, a Giannis Antetokounmpo. So it was a bad night for the Memphis Grizzlies. And I'm not going to sit here and try to... Grizzlies had lost in the play-in, they'd have Cooper Flag right now. There's no guarantee that would have happened. Random assortments and events can occur, and who knows if the Grizzlies had lost that play-in game, what would have occurred. Dallas Mavericks, they luck out. But the Grizzlies now have to deal with whatever the ramifications of this will be. Whether it's Cooper Flag and another young piece going to San Antonio, and Cooper Flag to Dallas, I should say, to clarify. That's a problem. That makes the Western Conference that much harder moving forward. If both Dallas and San Antonio use these picks somehow in what has been predicted to be a tumultuous and busy summer ahead for the NBA, if they use these picks to make their teams better in the here and now, that is going to impact the Grizzlies team, who at 38 and 34 were the number 8 seed in the Western Conference playoffs, whose season for Memphis just concluded a couple of weeks ago. So you are looking at a much better prepared for the future Dallas Mavericks, a much better prepared for the future San Antonio Spurs. You have the Houston Rockets, who clearly also could be in the Giannis running. And rumor has it, according to reports, that Houston is a preferred destination for Kevin Durant if Giannis is not interested in going to the Rockets. So Houston, San Antonio, Dallas, all well positioned to get better and get better either quickly or with a larger ceiling or a higher ceiling over time over the next several years. It's very possible. We're looking at a scenario where the Memphis Grizzlies could be the 4th best team in the Southwest Division within a year or two, as the Pelicans, we assume, get ready to tank themselves. That is problematic moving forward for the Memphis Grizzlies, given how their roster is constructed. Let us know in the comments. Hit us up on X at Joe Mullinax. I don't think it's rigged, right? I said the NBA was rigged on X. I don't truly believe that on social media. Do you think it's rigged? How convenient Dallas pulls off this Luka Doncic trade to help Luka Doncic trade, gets him to Los Angeles, saves the ratings of the NBA supposedly, and now they have the number 1 overall pick. Is it too convenient for you? Or, that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. It's not a good crumble of the cookie for the Memphis Grizzlies, regardless of the reason that it transpired. When we come back here on Locked On Grizzlies, we're going to talk the rest of the show about Ja Morant's regular season and his playoffs, his late run. Have we seen the best of Ja Morant, or is there more to get out of Ja's game in the NBA? We'll talk about that next. Stick around here on Locked On Grizzlies. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by Hungryroot. Everyone in my house always has something going on. This is the busy season. Not a lot of time to go grocery shopping or cook healthy meals at home. That's why Hungryroot is our choice. Hungryroot is like having your own personal shopper and nutritionist wrapped into one. They take care of grocery shopping, meal planning, offering personalized recommendations based on your taste and health goals. They have high-quality, nutritious food that can stick your gut-friendly, high-protein diet going strong without spending hours planning. And they also can tailor your orders based on what you like or don't like. It gets smarter each and every time. These meals come together in 15 minutes or less, giving you more time for all the things that you need to get done during your busy week. Take advantage of this exclusive deal. Get 40% off your first box plus a free item in every box for life. You heard me right, a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA and use the code LockedOnNBA. That's hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA. Code LockedOnNBA for 40% off and a lifetime free item. Pretty good deal from Hungryroot. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is also brought to you by Monarch Money. Have you ever checked your bank account and wondered where all your money went between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, Mother's Day this past weekend? It's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. They're your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start actually building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check in on your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. You can also collaborate with your partner, in my case, my wife. It's smoother than ever before, tracking shared accounts, personal accounts, setting goals for one another and together, and staying on the same page without all the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LockedOnNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LockedOnNBA for half off your first year. So we're going to do player reviews throughout the month of May, and we're going to start off today with Ja Morant. And Ja is a player that is fascinating to discuss, whether it's on social media, here with you on this episode of Locked On Grizzlies. Wherever the conversation gets struck, he's a very polarizing guy, right? We see it almost every day on social media, the gun fingers situation, the ridiculousness of that, and coupling that with the fact that he has a Ja 2 shoe. He has the top 10 or a top 10 selling jersey in the NBA. All of the concerns and pearl clutching, however you want to describe it, when it comes to interacting with Ja Morant as a personality, as an NBA superstar, there's disconnects. Rarely, if you have a group of basketball fans in the room and you go around asking about Ja Morant, will you get unifying threads of connection, right? You ask 10 different people something about Ja Morant, they'll give you 10 different answers. But there are some universal truths that I do think make me nervous about Ja moving forward as the best player for the Memphis Grizzlies. Can the Grizzlies win a championship with Ja Morant as their best player on their roster? I think there is mounting evidence to suggest that they cannot. Exhibit A, Ja Morant continues to be a poor three-point shooter. This is somebody who has one of the better handles in the NBA. He's one of the better creators off the dribble in the NBA. He does so many things well on the offensive end of the court in particular. But he has not shown the capacity to shoot better than 33 or 34% from three throughout his entire career. And we're talking about a career that now has 6 seasons played. Now, obviously, some of those seasons were disrupted because of injury and suspension, things like that. Ja has not played more than 67 games in a season his entire career. If you're going off of the standard of playing 65 games to be eligible for postseason awards, Ja only would have been eligible to win that Rookie of the Year in 2019-2020. He has not played more than 67 games since that rookie campaign. So durability is a concern, of course, but it's also what he does when he's on the floor in terms of floor spacing. The book is out on Ja Morant, just like the book is out on Jaren Jackson Jr., just like the book is out on Desmond Bane. There are no surprises anymore. These guys are NBA veterans now. Ja is explosive as an athlete. He is very crafty finishing at the rim, but he tries to draw contact. He's willing to use his body in that way, which leads to more durability concerns. Absorbing that contact gets harder and harder given his slight frame. And if you go under screens and you make him beat you from three, is he capable? Sure. There were several times throughout the season where he made 3 or 4 threes in a game. And that unlocks a level to this Grizzlies offense that the team simply doesn't have consistently because Ja doesn't bring that level of three-point conversion to the table enough. That's concerning. Is he able to continue to grow and develop his game now that he has new head coach tutelage from Tuomas Isalo? Will they be able to unlock that mid-range and three-point shot so that Ja doesn't have to go and float and fly around the rim and open himself up to contact? Because the durability question is a fair one. Can you count on Ja Morant to be on the floor? In defense of Ja, he made the point in his end-of-season media availability and towards the end of the playoffs that the injuries that he sustained this year, it's not like it was a bad back, right? It's not like it was a lingering issue, a reoccurring problem. These were all not freak accidents, but they were all items that weren't necessarily connected. So while Ja missed a lot of time, and he did miss a lot of time, it's not like you point at any one thing and say, that's going to be a long-term concern. Even the hip injury that he sustained in the Oklahoma City Thunder series, not something that the Grizzlies are worried about long-term. No surgeries were needed, just physical therapy, rehab, getting himself back up on his feet, literally. But one of the greatest skills in life is availability, one of the greatest abilities, that is. And Ja has not been nearly available enough. So the ability to shoot from range, even the ability to pull up on the short jumper, right? The ability to knock down a jump shot in the mid-range, not his strength. And because he's not efficient enough in that space, he's efficient compared to other NBA point guards. That's important to point out. But still not enough to make a defense alter how they scheme to deal with what Ja brings to the table athletically and how he enables and allows for teammates to find their offensive rhythm around him. Availability is a concern. His development of his offensive game is a concern. And to be frank, along with Jaren Jackson Jr., who's about to get a contract extension from somebody, along with Desmond Bane, who has a near max contract, the money that Ja Morant makes is a concern. Now, the market dictates value, and if Ja Morant didn't sign that max contract that he signed with Memphis, he would have signed it somewhere else. It would have looked different because it would have been either via restricted free agency down the road or it would have been in a trade situation. But Ja was going to get the money that he got, regardless of whether or not Memphis paid it. But we talk a lot about this CBA and how roster building becomes more complicated. And one of the goals of this collective bargaining agreement is to limit the capacity of a super team. Now, are Ja Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Desmond Bane a super team? No, they're not a super team. That's a pretty strong core that a vast majority of the NBA would take, though. And that money being spent on all three of those guys, including Jaren, once that new extension kicks in, presumably, in 2026, you are talking about a lot of money tied up in three players that is going to inhibit how you build your roster. Ja's trade value has probably never been lower. I saw somebody online say Giannis for Ja straight up. The Bucks laugh and hang up the phone. The Grizzlies would have to add more to that trade. And I think there's a realistic argument to be made that if you really wanted to get in the Giannis sweepstakes, start with Jaren and Bane. because that would be a more competitive offer because Ja is not able to stay on the floor, because Ja has not shown consistent growth in his offensive game in particular, relative to what his role is supposed to be as one of, if not the best players in the NBA. So, have we seen the best of Ja Morant? Potentially. But when we come back here on Locked On Grizzlies, I'm going to give you reasons to be optimistic. I'm going to find ways to discuss how Ja's best days are ahead of him. Stick around. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs, of course, are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action with FanDuel. They make it easy to stay in the game before tip-off as well as live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. You can play many different types of live bets mid-game based on how the action unfolds. And if you have a read on who is heating up, why not back it up with a same-game parlay? And how could a $200 bonus in bets add to the excitement of a first $5 bet? You're just going to have to check it out and find out. If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the National Basketball Association. Closing out today's episode with some positivity. One of the main reasons to believe that Ja Morant has his best days ahead is the coaching change. Tuomas Isalo, we have no idea what he is as an NBA head coach when it is his show. We've seen him, as I said recently on an episode of Locked On Grizzlies, try to crash a plane Freudian slip, try to land a plane that is on fire in the air, and it led in a crash landing. But it is really difficult to base any real judgment of what Isalo is as a head coach off of dealing with the ramifications of Zach Kleiman's poor timing and Taylor Jenkins's poor run late in the season coaching this basketball team. Isalo is the least responsible for those results. Now that it is his show, and you study what he did with Paris basketball before coming over to the Grizzlies last year, and you see the pick and roll actions, you see just how vital a small, shifty, creative off the dribble, ability to facilitate for others offensively and get his own shot. That position is really vital in a Tuomas Isalo offense, at least what we've seen in the EuroLeague. You know anybody that's like that? I do. His name's Ja Morant. So Ja could be a bounce back candidate in terms of someone who is going to have better numbers in this scheme because it's going to ask him to be a scorer. It's going to ask him to be aggressive. It's not going to have him stand in the corner like Taylor Jenkins did throughout this past season before he was let go. Another reason to be optimistic about Ja Morant is the presence of Zach Edey. Because the second thing you'll notice about Tuomas Isalo teams is Zach Edey checks the box of a big, screenable body that is going to create space for Ja Morant to work with. And one of the most beautiful parts of Ja Morant's game as a basketball player is he is like an artist when that holds tremendous value for Ja. Having a big body, having someone like Edey that can set that screen and allow for Morant to come downhill with a full head of steam, have his eyes up, see cutters at the basket, see people being aggressive on back cuts and off of flares. There is so much potential just with that one simple two-man action. And at 7'4", 290 pounds, Zach Edey brings so much to the table for this Grizzlies offense in that particular role. When we've seen Ja Morant thrive, it's been alongside a Jonas Valanciunas. It's been alongside a Steven Adams, a big center that is capable of screening aggressively and putting Ja in positions to take the space, create and close it at his own will. Zach Edey can do that and do that at a high level. Another reason to be optimistic about Ja Morant's best days being ahead is the fact that he is not rehabbing. He is not currently, knock on wood, under suspension or league investigation. This is somebody who has a full summer to prioritize growing and developing his game. Doesn't have to worry about a shoulder. Doesn't have to worry about a knee or an ankle. Once his hip is good to go and he's cleared for contact, He can go and get the work in that he needs to get. He can understand how to better contour his body and draw off contact without fouling. Watch a lot of James Harden tape, a lot of SGA tape this summer. Ja can better understand passing angles and be a smarter, more efficient defender. He's never going to be a true plus player on that end of the court. He's asked to do too much offensively by the Memphis Grizzlies to be able to wear both hats effectively. But he can continue to be a deflector, to be a disruptor, to be somebody that creates extra possessions. And I also think that we're going to see the best days of Ja Morant ahead, because he was so out of character in one particular space this past season, and that was with turnovers. Ja had a 14.1% turnover rate this past season. That is 40th percentile per cleaning the glass. That is well below average among NBA point guards. That is not the norm for Ja Morant over the prior 3 seasons. Ja's percentages were at 11.9% back in 2021, 2022, 11.4% in 2022, 2023. And then obviously in the very small sample size of 9 games in 2023, 2024, he was at 10.9%. So Ja has had turnover problems in the past, but this was his worst year with that since his sophomore season back in 2020, 2021. And I don't see that continuing. I do not believe that Ja Morant will have the same problems that he did being a part of this convoluted offense. He was uncomfortable. He didn't have what he needed. As long as Ja Morant is not being traded, and Grizzlies GM Zach Kleiman has made it very clear, that is not in the plan of the Memphis Grizzlies. If Ja is part of the long-term wheelings and dealings of this franchise, he is the best player they have on their roster in terms of superstar ceiling. Is he a number 1 on a championship team? No, I don't think he is. But could Jaren Jackson Jr., Desmond Bane be a core of a trade for somebody that could be a number 1? Potentially, if Memphis chooses to go that route. Or if the Grizzlies choose to lean into a Desmond Bane or Jaren Jackson Jr. and trade the other option and bring in various role players and starting caliber players, you can at least provide veteran depth around Ja that he has not had a chance to truly enjoy at any point throughout his NBA career. If you want to tip your cap to Dylan Brooks and Steven Adams, I'm cool with that. But at the same time, the fact remains, we have not seen Ja Morant with players like an Alex Caruso, a Dorian Finney-Smith. Those names and that type of player has not ever been in Memphis as long as Ja Morant has been there. So if Kleiman is speaking the truth, and there are going to be lots of opportunities for roster improvement, building and piecing around Ja and seeing what he is capable of is still worth investment, in my opinion. Because what's the alternative? You trade Ja Morant and restart this whole thing all over again? You have talented pieces in place, Ja Morant being the most talented of the lot. Put complementary talents around him that have NBA experience, and let's see exactly what Ja can do. We haven't had full exposure to that. And for me, that is the main reason I'm optimistic that the best of Ja is still to come. Let me know on X. Hit me up in the comments on YouTube. Have we seen the best of Ja? Do you think his best days are ahead? Are you excited for Ja's future? Not his best season, not his worst season. Did some good things, scored the ball well, was red hot down the stretch in the wake of the Jenkins firing, Tumas Isolo taking over. Are you excited for the Isolo era? First and foremost, because of Ja Morant being unleashed. I think that's where I'm at. Thank you so much for being with me on this episode of Locked On Grizzlies. The next time that we are together, we will talk more about Jaren Jackson Jr., Desmond Bane, spaces where they can improve. Are we excited about their futures? Do we see them as longed for this Memphis Grizzlies life? Plus, maybe we start taking a look at how the draft lottery beyond the top 2, which obviously impact Memphis tremendously, the other interesting matchups and makeups that could happen in the wake of the NBA draft lottery. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, as well. Thank you so much for being with me on this episode of Locked On Grizzlies. Thank you for making us your first listen. Now, for your second listen, you should go and check out NBA Game Night. I'm a big fan of NBA Game Night. Every game, every night, until an NBA champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NBA Game Night on Locked On NBA on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure you're liking, commenting, rating, reviewing, subscribing on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Google, YouTube, literally anywhere you get a podcast. Make sure you're hanging out with Michael and I each and every time that an episode drops. I appreciate you being with me today. Stay locked in. Again, do you think the Grizzlies have what it takes to have Ja Morant be the best player on a championship contender? Let me know in the comments. Hit me up on X. See you next time on Locked On Grizzlies.